Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is a surprise stream. Enjoy it. MC has something he wants to say, and, well, as we know, MC's opinions are very important in this universe. Run for cover.
Yes. All right, everyone. There's several things that people have got to get in their minds in order to understand, okay, why we're suffering through what we're suffering through, right? As far as corruption and so forth and everything else, right? And the idea, the mentality, okay, behind some of these things, they need to be looked at in a different manner. And one of the arguments that I used to have with Cabby all the time, okay, has to do with, all right, governmental corruption, okay. And I think, Miss Murder, yes, right now you are the only one watching, right? Because this was very quickly done, and we didn't give any kind of lead up to this. One of the things that I think people have to understand is, don't get me wrong, all right? There's corruption in a lot of ways, okay? But the governmental corruption happens less with elected officials, all right, being the prime movers. Okay, what do I mean by that? The government officials, all right, are not the ones, okay, who are, okay, well, we bought this senator, so we're good. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? Because let's be honest, all right, let's take a look, for example, all right, at the current situation here in the United States. What do you have going on? You've got an entire bureaucracy. We've got an entire Justice Department, all right, picking and choosing who to prosecute. None of these people, none of them, right, for the most part, are elected officials. And even when you have elected officials that say, no, you need to prosecute, guess what? Many of the people below them won't do it. They'll pick and choose. Look what's going on right now in D.C., for example. Well, the FBI is running hell bent for leather to go after anybody that was part of that, the January 6th takeover. But what happened about the takeover that happened, during the SCOTUS hearings, where they basically took over the leftists and the Marxists took over the rotunda as for 24 hours. All right, they prevented a sitting senator, Chuck Grassley, all right, from even entering his office because they were doing their quote unquote powwow sit-in. Well, is this elected officials that are on the take? No, it's not elected officials that are the problem here. The problem is the bureaucracy, because they are the ones who are picking and choosing, right, who to go after and who not to go after. All right. And when you have a corporation, yes, corporations can, pay money to be left alone. They can tell a senator, I want to, I'll give you money for your campaign if you make sure that these laws are in place, but the laws don't apply to me. Okay. That is so much easier for them to get through, all right, when they talk about corruption, rather than, hey, if you put this law in there, it hurts my enemies. That's very difficult because the situation on the ground changes all the time. It's not the elected officials, okay, who then become the focal point for this. It's the bureaucracy. And you've got to worry. People need to learn to worry far more about what's going on in the bureaucracy and the corruption within the bureaucracy. And that's what we've got right now. You have, you're Texan ever going, well, Mines doesn't have the money to sit up there and buy a senator. Yeah, but that isn't the problem. They're not being attacked by a senator. They're being attacked by other organizations on an illegal basis, all right? And the bureaucracy which could prosecute them. There are laws that are being violated by both Google, all right, and Amazon to go after Mines right now, all right, because it's a concerted effort. They're breaking laws here doing this, And yet, okay, the laws are already there. Well, why aren't they going after them? Why aren't they going after Google? Why aren't they going after Amazon? Because they bought protection, not because, and what's more is they are protected because of the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy isn't trying to charge them. They don't even have to buy the protection if the bureaucracy is on their side. The idea that the corruption is the way people think it is, it's not that way. Okay? It's not saying that, I'm not saying that corruption on the elected officials doesn't exist and that there aren't, and the elected officials aren't corrupt. I'm not making that claim at all. But the problem is the bureaucracy has too much input into our lives. And while you think about it as a corporate overlords, it's really the government, the bureaucratic government overlords, all right, rather than the corporations. Because they're working hand in hand. When a corporation gets big enough to buy protection, that's what it is. It's protection money. And who are the ones that are demanding the protection? And I mean, the money for the protection? The bureaucracy. Do you see my point? I think people think that I'm just dancing on the head of a pin here, and it's all two sides of the same coin to an extent they're right, but the bureaucracies are what have to go. It isn't just the problem with the legislation and the legislator and this senator or this congressman or this judge or that freaking president or whatever. The problem is much deeper now because of an entrenched bureaucracy that has to be going away. So the government is the mafia. Yeah, the government, when it has this kind of power, is the mafia. You have Comey. Think about it from this standpoint, right? Comey was never an elected official, right? And yet he personally chose to go after an innocent individual, make up false claims because he didn't like the guy's politics.
If I may, just for a moment, seriously, he's not an elected individual. I thought he was.
Nope.
This is a surprise to me. I genuinely thought he was elected.
No, James Comey was the director of the FBI. Now, he had to be confirmed, all right, with the Senate process, right? But he wasn't elected by anybody.
Oh, okay. Apologies for interrupting. I was just, confirming. It's like, wow. Okay.
Now, in some states, the attorney general for the state is an elected position, okay? But the U.S. attorney general, once again, they're not elected. They're not an elected official. They're only confirmed in that position. They have no accountability, really. All right. And they are given the kind of power to say, okay, I will decide who to prosecute. I will decide who to go after. I will decide who to investigate. There's no. Now, there's theoretically there's legislative and executive oversight theoretically, but when they become too big, when they become too overpowerful, when they become too large, okay, it's impossible to have the kind of oversight necessary to prevent the kind of abuses that we've seen and that we continue to see. So you have the president of the United States kicked off of Twitter. Illegally, I might add. All right. Absolutely illegally, considering the court rulings and everything. They're going to have to go through the court process because it's going to be a civil court, all right, that they're going to have to fight this in. All right. But it is an illegal process. What they're doing is illegal. Now, should they charge them criminally? I think that they could charge them criminally, but who gets to make that choice? It's not an elected official. There's not an elected official that gets to say, we are charging this individual. Not one elected official. Think on that. Do you start to see where the issues start to go? And why are we here? I can tell you right now, one of the reasons why we're here. and it's ubiquitous on the left. So the ubiquitous attitude on the left, right? I was on Twitter, which is where I saw this comment, and a guy from Britain sat up there and showed a picture of two women with AR-15 style, weapons, right? And he captioned it with, "Tell me why you people in America need this," right? And of course, my response is tell me why. A better question is, why do you think you should be telling other people what they do and don't need? Why it's okay to even have that philosophy? Why is it that you think that you should be determining what people need or don't need? This is where representative government goes off the rails. When you start going around with your nose stuck into somebody else's business saying this is what this individual shouldn't be allowed to do or should be allowed to do. Now, if you're doing something from a general public standpoint, okay, it becomes a little bit grayer. But when you start talking about an individual and what an individual has, then it becomes a different thing. Okay. So here's a person. Now, granted, it's a Second Amendment issue, but the attitude is the same, because if you get to decide what somebody needs and what somebody else needs on weapons, what else is out? What becomes persona non grata? Okay. Well, I think you need to learn English. I don't think you need to sit up there and learn Spanish. I don't think you should be speaking Spanish, because you don't need Spanish to sit up there and get along in an English-speaking world. So why don't we ban Spanish, right? Why don't we ban anybody from speaking Spanish in America? It's only to their benefit if they speak English correctly, right? I mean, I'm not making, obviously I'm being a bit, provocative here, because I'm trying to make the point. It's one thing to say what a person can and can't do. It's another thing to sit up there and say, all right, I think I know your needs better than you do, and therefore I'm going to interfere with it. This isn't a matter of protection. If you want to protect somebody, go out there, get your ass in the way of the bullet. Go out there and become the shield for that other individual. Go out there and protect, be the protector. But you're not protecting anybody by sitting up there and saying, oh, by the way, Detroit has bears. Literally, bears are moving into abandoned houses in the city. Miss Murder, do me a favor and DM me that link. that'll be one day.
Meth bears attacking. Oh, this is going to be fun.
But you see my point, right? These people get in this attitude of, I know what's best for you. Well, you don't know what's best for me. Okay. Well, society would be better off. How is society, with all due respect, how is society better off? All right, when you ban guns. When you go on a gun ban, how is society better off? Does it prevent guns? Does it prevent people from using guns? You can get away with it. All right, it becomes it becomes something that the society as a whole can get away with, as long as the society is completely homogenous. Right? When you have a heterogeneous society, which quite frankly freedom requires, then you can't do that. Bears lives matter.
It had to be done. Sorry.
And that's what goes back to where we are in this society. Now somebody asked an interesting question. This is something else that I'm going to go on a little rant about. A person sit up there and wrote in the I don't know if it was Twitter or one of the other social media things. The other big social media platform I'm on now, after Parler has been whacked, is Cloth Hub. Cloth Hub, which it'll be on its way out as soon as everybody migrates over there. They'll just ban that. But all right, so I don't know if it was on Twitter or something else, but somebody asked the question, all right, if you got 25,000, if you need 25,000 to protect your inauguration, all right, because you're afraid of people who don't think that the election was that believe the election was rigged. What does that tell you? You need the election is so rigged that you censor everything and then try to sit up there and demonstrate this by putting armed guards around there because you know it's so obvious that the election was free and fraudulent free. Well, obviously that isn't the impression. Obviously the fraud is that deep. And this becomes the other problem with it, of course, is just how deep all this stuff is. Now, the thing about a lot of this is an elected official. You're an elected official. Let's say you're a senator. Okay. How much power do you really have? Do you have the ability to walk into a government building and tell that guy that's working behind there, no, you need to be doing X, Y, or Z? No. The only thing you can even come close to threatening them with is saying, we're going to withhold your pay increases. So how much power over the bureaucracy do they really have? And in America, where they've made it impossible for the president just to go in there and fire everybody in an executive branch, which he should have the power to do, in my opinion, right? But because of the government, because of the legislature, they've made it damn near impossible to just go in there and fire a government worker. Well, then what's he got to worry about? Or what's she got to worry about? Unless you can prove absolute malfeasance on their part, which is very difficult to do, because if for no other reason than you've got tens of millions of people working in the federal government. How do you ensure correct oversight over these people? How do you ensure oversight? If the guy's manager can't fire him because he can go and say, or she can go up and say, the guy just doesn't like me, or he's sexually harassing me, or some other stupid reason, he doesn't like the color of my skin, all right? If you're worried about all that and you can never get rid of these people, right? Where's the quality? Where's this going on? This becomes seriously problematic, and I mean seriously problematic. And it's one of the reasons why we need to. When people are talking about term limits, I started thinking about it, and term limits aren't going to fix the problem, because the problem is the state. The problem is the bureaucracy. You need to get rid of these people. You need to make it so that these people can't live off the government's largesse. None of them. Not the elected officials and not the bureaucrats. None of them should be living off the largesse of the American people. And if you've been in government for more than 20 years, you need to go. Out. There's only certain areas where it should be allowed to continue. And that doesn't include, all right, anybody in the federal government, all right, when it comes to the CIA or the FBI, etc. Only the military, all right, which relies upon, quite frankly, the military is a different world. You give up all your rights when you join the military, but you don't give up all your rights, okay, for any other part. In no other area of the federal government do you give up your rights as a U.S. citizen, but you do if you join the military. You give up a lot of rights. Right. So for those people, and the fact that it's tradition bound, you understand this, Jensen. Yeah. The traditions and everything that in order to have an effective military have to be in place. All right. To have that kind of connection between the youngest troops and the eldest troops, the all the way through, that's kind of important. thing to continue going through that line. It's just a part of making a powerful military. Right? So the military is the only exception that would have that rule. But if you've been in the government for 20 years, you're not allowed in the government anymore. And I don't care what it is. If you've been in the government, the state government for 20 years, you don't need to be in the government. Find another job. You're already on the freaking dole. After 20 years, they're already eligible for retirement, and they get retirement in perpetuity, right? Forever. The hell with this. Go find another freaking job. You don't need to be sucking on the American dime. There are people who joined the government at 18 years old. They turned 38. They're already at a point where they can retire. And here's what they do for the people who don't know. What they do is when they turn 38, they do retire, but they retire and take another job within the government. Okay, so that when they're 58, 20 years later, all right, they get 2 retirements. It's called double dipping. I've seen it. It exists. These people are parasites, and they're sucking the lifeblood of the country, and they're not accountable to anybody if they don't want to be. They don't act like servants? Tell me, does James Comey act like a servant of the people?
No. No.
All right? Are these people acting like servants? Or are they acting like overlords? When you go to the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, this is on a state level, but when you go to the DMV and you go to look to that worker, does that person act like they're serving you, or do they act like, oh God, you're here? All right? These people are supposed to be servants. And they get paid well. And anybody who tells you differently, they're all full of shit. That's just how I'm going to put it right now. Random rants by MC.
Hey, you needed to get your opinion out. I totally understand, sir. Now, over here, there's not actually that much difference. That's actually the problem. Humanity has taken over from its leaders, which isn't necessarily that bad a thing, except they're incompetent at leading, which means, great, we're removing the people in charge and we're not even bothering replacing them with idiots. It would be okay if we replaced them with idiots, because at least we had someone to do the job. Though, I'm possibly wrong. In fact, I'm probably wrong, and this is just me overreacting. But don't be too surprised if the rule about the president not being able to fire people gets removed now that the correct president has been brought in.
That won't change. The bureaucrats won't allow it.
Okay.
You see, the Democrats have they've understood something, right, that the Republicans never did, right? Which was, all we have to do is put in our own there. The people that are in the bureaucracy in America, all right, you could go through the entire bureaucracy of America, and 95% of them are registered Democrats, and I'm not exaggerating. See, the Democrats realized something. They could line their pockets, all right, with the government money by getting in bed with government unions, all right, and then promising them pay raises, to which then gets funneled to them in campaign contributions. They are basically funding themselves and funding their bullshit with the American taxpayers' dollars, because they've gotten in bed with the bureaucracy. These are people that they all work with. They're all fellow travelers now. Why do you think the government workers hate Republicans? Well, it's because they're going to hold them accountable, and they won't give them the pay increases. Or Democrats are constantly saying, "Yeah, we'll give you a pay increase. We'll increase your pay. You know, all you got to do is give us a little campaign, slush fund, and we're good to go." It's a gigantic slush fund on the American taxpayers' dime. If you were really going to fix this problem, all right, they're not going to be able to change that. But what they have to do is end the fact that you can have government sector unions. That's what they need to end. Right? You think the Democrats are going to do that? You're going to cut their own funding away? Nope. And that's why it won't happen, Jensen. That's why they won't. Yeah, there's certain people in the government that they would like to be able to fire. But what they do is they go to their friends, because 95%, like I said, 95% of them are freaking Democrats. If you want to get rid of the Republican, it's real easy. You just make his life or her life totally unbearable, because 9 out of 10 of the people, all right, are going to make disparaging comments with them, or small little innuendos, or other sniggers, or anything else, making life intolerable for you.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is, isn't the world a wonderful place? I'm sure it's going to work somehow, and if we keep repeating this, our overlords at YouTube might not hang us. Oh, why am I even bothering? We all know that YouTube's going to do what YouTube does. It's going to do it to us. It's going to do it to everybody, and we have absolutely no say in it. And it wouldn't actually matter whether we were left or right. It's whether they could control the situation, and they've decided the best way to control the situation is to silence anybody.
Oh, yeah. Censor. Think about that. The process was so free and fair that you needed censorship and 20,000 people to protect an inauguration to demonstrate it. Think about that. It's insane. Right? The ideas that they were pushing, the ideas that they were pushing on the American people are just absolutely ridiculous. And the American people, for the most part, like it or not, might just ignored it. Just let it happen. They're letting it happen. The only way to fix this now, from a legal standpoint, right, is with the Convention of States. But that's not gonna happen, probably, right? Because there is no understanding behind people, all right, that's what's necessary, all right. There's too many people that are, they're all pox on both houses, they're all bad, blah 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 blah. So you're making your own convenient excuse for not getting involved, for not actually trying to fix things, for not going to your state legislature and saying, hey, to your state representative and saying, hey, vote for a freaking Convention of States. I demand you vote for a Convention of States so that we can redress these problems. Because the government, the federal government, is far too large.
Without wanting to be that guy, I'm going to ask, because again, different country, different rules, I get it. Are you really sure that a Convention of States is really going to make any difference with the way things are going for you guys?
You're not listening to me. I hear what you're saying, all right, I'll do it. But you're not listening to what I said. I said the only way to fix it now, all right, is with a Convention of States. I didn't say it would work.
Fair point.
All right. Because I don't know what the result of Convention of States would be necessarily, all right. But it's the only way you're going to redress these issues. It's the only way you're going to seriously cut down the overarching power of the federal government. It will not cut itself. It will not reduce itself. The only way that you can do it, the only way that it can be done, right, is with a Convention of States, where they can rewrite the structure of the government. They can do these things that I've been suggesting. Like I said, there's no reason, all right, for anybody to be working in the government more than 20 years. If you want to know the druthers of I don't think they should be working in the government more than 15 years. I think there should be a maximum cap of 15 years, all right, by the federal government. That's all you should be able to work for. That's all you should be able to do, all right? Now, people talk about lobbyists. I think I saw them. One of the guys was talking about lobbyists. Lobbyists exist. Lobbyists can be a problem. Lobbyists are also, whether you like it or not, quite necessary in certain regards. Why? Because whether you like it or not, when you elect an official, you're electing idiots like Maxine Waters. All of them are like this. All of these elected officials, I don't even care if you're talking Rand Paul. Right, he's a doctor. I don't care he's a doctor. He might be a doctor, which is great if you're talking about something with medical issues, but is he an expert in electronics? Is he an expert in defense? Is he an expert in civil engineering? No. So he has to rely upon other experts to give him that information, which is one of the things that lobbyists do give. All right. Lobbyists are experts in their fields. Now, granted, they're pushing their companies, but they're experts in their fields, which is why lobbyists exist. I think that lobbyists need to be, one, they need to be registered. And number two, all money spent by a lobbyist should be subject, all right, to public oversight. They should have to go out there, and every dime, all right, that they spend should be able to be seen. All right, if you've got a lobbying firm, whatever NBC is saying, he is wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Good morning, CSG.
Had to be done.
It's always fun to see CSG.
Oh yeah.
But every dime of a lobbyist should be public record, the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I mean complete public record. Not, well, we spent on this consultant. Which consultant? How much money did you give that consultant? Exactly what did that consultant give you for the money that you spent? I want to know exactly. I want it itemized. Of course, that should be the way it is with campaigns, and people think it is. But then again, Ilhan Omar and frickin' Rashida Tlaib, and of course Alessa Presley and the other leftists. Well, that doesn't apply to them. Why? Because guess what? The bureaucracy has no intention of going after them.
Yeah,
not the elected officials. It's not the elected officials. It's the bureaucracy. People like James Comey have no intention of going after Linnea Presley. And I'm probably, or Pressler. I'm butchering her name. It's not intentional.
Yeah.
Right. But that's become the issue. All right. When I talk about corruption in the government, the thing that everyone forgets about is they think they focus on the corruption of the elected officials. They forget about the corruption, the absolute corruption running around. All right. Within the bureaucracy. Within the American. Let me ask you a question. Should leaking be legal? We know it's illegal. They've got all sorts of rules against it. How come there's still leaks?
True.
Right? How come these people are leaking all over the place? How is it that somebody in the press, right, specifically the New York Times, is publishing, tax records of a sitting U.S. president from years in the past? How's that possible? Without somebody else breaking the law. Oh, but they're whistleblowing. Okay, well, what was wrong with his taxes? Nothing. Well, then, where's the whistleblower? Where's the whistleblowing part? If what Trump did and what Trump sent to the New York Times, which shows in this New York Times, it has nothing to do, shows that he had no illegal, shows nothing illegal, right? There's no actionable illegality that you're demonstrating. Well, then, that other person broke the law. They're not whistleblowing. They're not outing malfeasance. Are they? So the idea that this is the corruption, right, is just with the government. But now it's been married to one more thing, and it's not corporate in and of itself. It's the mainstream media, and the mainstream media is corporate. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the mainstream media has now become, all right, part of that process, part of the one-sided process. And they've been that way for a while, don't get me wrong. All you had to do is take a look at the treatment they gave frickin', if you want to go back, just look at how they treated Reagan versus how they treated Carter. Okay. And I'm not, I'm not as negative on Carter as people think I am. Although I am a Carter detractor. That's very true because the guy was a piece of crap, right? But he at least has a signature, all right, a signature policy, positive policy statement, right? That no one else had, and no other Democrat even comes close to, right? There's nothing positive about Barack Obama's administration. You can't point to one positive thing that his administration initiated. You can't point to one positive thing, all right, in the Clinton administration that he initiated. You can't point to anything that was worthwhile. Any policy initiative you want to talk about, let's talk about it, right? You want to talk about a policy initiative? You want to talk about a foreign policy achievement? You want to talk about even a public policy achievement, all right, that was initiated by the president? Right? Let's talk about it. Tell me what a Barack Obama does that's a positive policy achievement. Can't think of one, can you?
No.
He was a black man in office, MC. That's good. That's not a policy achievement. Okay. So I could become a black man if it's my policy to say that I'm black. Am I black? Does that make me a black man?
With the arguments that they're doing with the trans, I realise this probably can get me in trouble, but technically you can actually become trans race. So I would just like everyone to know I am officially a black woman from Uganda. My name is Knuckles.
Well, Knuckles or Fred? Frederica. My mistake.
No. I'll be serious. It's Tundi Abawayo. Yes. So what you're hearing is actually a good Ugandan accent. It's not my fault if it's not coming across properly. I am Tundi. Hello, everyone. My God, we actually lost somebody for me admitting I was Tundi. Wow.
You are Tundi, huh?
They're racist. I finally come out of the gate as admitting who I am, and we go down one. That's disgusting. No, I'm appalled. Sorry,
Bobby B. Don't ask, don't tell was a ridiculous policy that didn't freaking do anything. All right, because the issue had nothing to do with the president. Once again, this was a disgraceful. That was a disgraceful attempt. It was not a positive attempt. In fact, it was horrifying. Let me explain to you why. All right. Don't ask, don't tell. If you want to talk about being a homosexual in the United States military, okay, in order for you, all right, to be openly gay in the U.S. military, you had to change the law. There's this thing called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, right? It is a law that is applied strictly to the military, and it was enacted not by a president or that president or whatever. It was enacted by Congress. Okay? And this becomes a major point of corruption when you say, well, Congress passed this law, but I'm not going to enforce it. Then you got a problem. Okay? Now you can say we're going to focus on other things. That's fine. You know, we're going to set priorities. But when you make the statement, I'm not going to enforce a law, when your job is to enforce the laws, you have opened this can of worms. All right. So the whole idea of don't ask, don't tell was not a positive one from the military standpoint. And it wasn't a positive policy concept because what it did is you created a situation where the executive branch was determining they don't have to listen or follow or actually enforce the laws. Chris Kroll, they already are. All right. Did they change the UCMJ? But gay marriage. I don't care about any of this. This whole thing it doesn't matter on that. The NSA can spy on everyone, but the uniparty establishment seems to have immunity. Every government employee, the idea that the NSA can spy on everyone. First of all, you don't know anything about the NSA, Chris. Right? With all due respect, the NSA is not the people you need to be worrying about. Right? And if you want to take a look at the U.S. governmental agencies, and all right, I'm going to go back to explaining things for people. All right. There are three, really, when it comes right down to it, there are three intelligence agencies in the United States. Okay, they are the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA. All right, those three. All these other agencies that you hear about, either one, fall within those three, or two, are aggregators of intelligence created by those three. They're not intelligence agents of their own, all right? They are receiving information from the three. They're not investigating on their own. They're not doing any of the rest of that stuff, all right? So there's only three big intelligence agencies. Well, why isn't there one? Because Congress realized that if there's a single intelligence agency, it becomes a problem. All right. So they broke up what they attempted to do in the 1970s was break up the roles possible between the three. All right. The CIA and the FBI have a different role than what the NSA is, and they have different capabilities, all right, between what they are doing, all right. And there are laws that restrict the NSA. The NSA is not legally allowed, all right, to investigate Americans. This is why I get irritated when people go, "Oh, the NSA has all this information on every American." No, it doesn't. Okay. Well, let me rephrase that. No, it didn't. Okay. Right. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit here. The other two, the FBI and the CIA, do have the legal within certain realms, the legal ability to surveil American citizens. Now, the FBI is the only one, all right, the one that is primarily in charge of counter espionage. All right, they are the counter espionage service. Okay, there are other counter espionage elements that are allowed in the CIA. The NSA does not have that. They don't have the ability to do it in that regard. There are certain things that they do, but I'm not going to go into it. But it has nothing to do with American counterintelligence. All right. Most of the counterintelligence when you hear about counterintelligence, think CIA, think FBI, because that's who's basically doing it. They're the ones that are in charge of the oversight. Okay. There are some overlapping concerns between the big three. Right. The Patriot Act and several other things broke down a lot of the rules and laws for them to share data. All right. And that's where the problems began. And then it was magnified under Barack Obama because not only did the data sharing come into place, tasking started coming into place. The capabilities of the NSA are magnificent. They're flat out impressive as hell. But if you're not tasked to do certain things, if you're not tasked, then you don't do it, right? But if you have an intelligence agency like the FBI tasking the CIA, tasking the NSA to open up those tools against Americans, now you have a massive problem. And that's where a lot of this started going to hell in a handbasket. Because Barack Obama basically gave free rein to both the FBI, but even worse, he gave it to the CIA. He turned over assets that were NSA assets directly to be controlled by the CIA. And I'll just give you one example. And that is turning over the assets of the NSA's drone program to the CIA so the CIA could run their own drones.
Can't
And their
see
own
that
drone
from there.
strikes. When you hear about a CIA drone strike, okay, think about that. The CIA didn't have drones. Where did they get the drones from? They got them from the military. Well, what part of the intelligence is military? It's the NSA. This is where you start running into a lot of these problems. But this is also, of course, now you start to see what happens when you put all the other stuff in there. The Five Eyes encryption. I'm not going to talk about that. Actually, you don't know that from whistleblowers that the NSA investigates Americans. That's not what any of that said. If you even looked at Tyro, if you ever looked at what was being said, the problem that Snowden was bitching about, right, was data collection. All right, and that became an issue because technically what they were doing was illegal by other rules. All right, but that was, once again, that was requested by the people that are justifying it under the Patriot Act. All right, it wasn't until the judge says, okay, this is illegal, you can't do this. So it's that the NSA had to stop that. Data collection, okay, is an interesting dynamic within the federal government, within the intelligence agencies, because to have something collected is fine and dandy, all right, as long as you're not talking U.S. citizens. When you start talking U.S. citizens, all right, then it becomes a major problem because it's the sifting of that data in the past. Okay. Now there is somebody mentioned the Five Eyes. Five Eyes is a get around. All right. I'm not going to lie to anybody about that. It's illegal for an American agency to sit up there and spy on an American citizen. But is it illegal for an American to spy on a Brit? And is it illegal for a Brit to spy on an American? Does the British government spy on American citizens all the time? If you think that doesn't happen, you're a fool. All right. And okay, so the Americans aren't spying on Americans, all right? But you have a Brit spy on Americans, and then just so happen to say, hey, if you have any information on this guy that we can't spy on because he's a British citizen, well, we have some information that you might want to see with this guy, so we can share information.
We're not sharing, we're trading. It doesn't sound quite as bad.
That's a separate issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the NSA has engaged in illegal conduct for decades now. You guys are worried about the NSA and you're ignoring the real problem, which is the. Are you disputing that whistleblowers who talked about how NSA agents would eavesdrop on American phone calls for fun and joke about it? Okay, the person who brought that to the fore, okay, was a certain individual named Eric Snowden. Okay. Now, Eric Snowden knew who some of these people were, all right, and it is illegal for you to turn those pieces of equipment, all right, on an American citizen. That's very true. All right. But Snowden didn't out any of the people that were doing it, did he? Did he tell anybody was doing it? Did he show you anybody that was telling us? No. So no, there was no whistleblower. Now, the equipment, all right, that allows for listening on cell phones, I can tell you right now that in the early days of the 80s, as cell phones became ubiquitous, as we were going through training schools, we were listening to conversations that were happening. all right, as we were going through the training, because the equipment had that capability. But see, listening in isn't illegal. Catching a conversation isn't illegal according to the rules. Dissemination and collection is. All right. And when collection requires certain things, not just the fact that you listen to something, you also had to be able to successfully store it. And then you had an additional aspect that you had to be able to retrieve it readily. All right. In other words, you could have a method of retrieval. All right. Just because somebody is sweeping through an electromagnetic spectrum and happens to catch you talking to your girlfriend, all right, or possibly the 911 number, all right, isn't in and of itself illegal. In fact, that was something, all right, that the government struggled with for a long time because they tried to make it illegal. Do you remember the day when everyone used to have a police scanner?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you able to scan a police scanner? If you've got a police scanner, how's that legal? Right? You're legally looking at the electromagnetic spectrum. You're listening in on a conversation. The police tried to ban those things. The police tried to sit up there and make those things illegal. Guess what? Went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, nope, scanners are not illegal. You cannot outlaw scanners. This is one of the reasons why people in many states still weren't around with radar detectors. They're not illegal. However, radar jammers are. Okay. So when somebody is charging you with something, they can claim, all right, that you didn't have a detector on, that you had a jammer on. Why? Because in order for you to detect, you've actually got to generate a frequency very close to the frequency that's being utilized in order for it to detect it. And that's how they get away with a lot of that shit. They make different claims, right? It's just one of the things that they do. So if you want to listen to your neighbor, okay, who's having a phone conversation with their phone, right, whether it's their cell phone or whether or not it's just their regular phone, you're allowed to do that. All right, it's legal for you to do that as long as you don't record it and disseminate it. That's where the law gets broken.
That's interesting. Didn't know that. Obviously, it's going to be different dependent on country. So my side probably going to be a wee bit different, and I wouldn't expect you to know about it. But then again, it's
I see the behavior described. I'm sorry. I see. So the behavior you described by the female whistleblower from the Bush era wasn't illegal. It was just unethical. There. Yes. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but yes, you can do things that are technically legal, just not ethical. And for example, well, let me give you an example of something that was technically illegal. Okay, it's one thing to, like I said, listen in. Well, there was a team back during the Clinton administration. I don't know how many people know this or not, or remember this case. All right, where this couple supposedly ran across the cell phone conversation, just happened to run across the cell phone conversation of Newt Gingrich, who at the time was Speaker of the House. Now, he was supposedly in a car moving around, well, and so forth, and they just happened to get this frequency. Well, if you know anything about the way cell towers and everything works, you know very well that they were not just, it's impossible. Their story, the way they described it, is absolutely impossible. Right? They weren't just, they were just looking around and they just encountered this. No, they were literally following Newt Gingrich, and they recorded the entire conversation, and then they disseminated it to the press. That is illegal. And that wasn't the NSA. That was just a couple of Democrat operatives from Florida that just happened to be in the D.C. area. All right, just to let you know. All right, you can go back and you can take a look at those kinds of things. And most digital signals are not encrypted. All right, encryption is something along the lines of an envelope, to be honest. That's something you have to understand, right? And encryption is something like an envelope, which is why if you sit up there and write a post, right, I'm going to rob, the local national bank down the road, right, and you write that on a postcard and you mail it, the post office and the postmaster can look at that and take it directly to the cops and saying, this is illegal, here's the guy, and you're going to be paid a visit by your local authorities, all right, because you were obviously trying to rob a bank. Okay? They can use that to convict you. They haven't broken the law. They haven't interfered with the mail because you did nothing to secure your privacy. It isn't it's no breaking of privacy. Okay? That's what a lot of people don't understand. Technically, listening in isn't a breaking of privacy in a theoretical standpoint until and unless you record it and disseminate it. So the FBI can listen into your conversations. I want you to understand this. The FBI could be listening into this conversation right now, right? Well, obviously it's online, so it doesn't make no. But if I was calling my wife, right, from, let's say I was in Atlanta, working in Atlanta, and I called my wife, it's not illegal for the FBI to listen in. It is not. It's illegal for them to record it, and then without a warrant. Listening without a warrant, no, they can listen. All right, and that's what somebody says they heard is hearsay. I heard him say this. I heard her say that. So therefore, it isn't necessarily admitted as evidence in a court, right? Which is why they have to go through the other process of recording. And the moment you start the recording, that then becomes illegal if they're listening and recording without a warrant.
Question. Now, again, don't know how this works. Right, I'm going to probably sound like a bit of an idiot here, but hey, I'm going to ask. Can they record without listening? I.e., if they record the conversation and don't listen to it, does that actually negate the illegality?
Yeah, because there's no way to there's no way to as long as you don't know what's on there. Okay, you're not technically okay. Yes, technically it's not illegal, right? The reason for it is because you don't know what's on the tape. You don't know what's there. As long as it isn't targeted, you don't even know whose conversation is on there. Okay, if you know anything about that conversation, that's the key point. If you know anything about a conversation that's on there, then it's illegal. If you don't know anything about that, then it's not. Now, why? And I'll tell you one of the things that NSA has the capability of doing, and it's not going to break any kind of secrets or anything, is they have the ability to basically vacuum cleaner and record an entire electromagnetic spectrum. They don't even know what's on there, right? They just recorded it. They have that capability.
Okay. Now, the reason I ask this is because and again, purely theoretically, can it be taken to court without being listened to and still count as evidence? After all, the court itself can make it legal to play it in the court.
Well, I don't think so, because once again, that's just like saying anybody could walk up with a tape of whatever, right? Or I've got a disc here, you got to look at it. So the answer is no. That's not going to be allowed as evidence, because why would I be able to bring it in as evidence if I don't know what's on it? Well, what is this? Well, it's a tape. It may have something on it. Well, what judge? Is the judge going to sit up there and do that? Now, can this is where the shadiness becomes. Okay, let's say that the FBI is listening to your conversation, all right, and the FBI agent didn't record anything, but he heard something. Now he can say and go back to the judge, I'd like to start recording this guy because I heard this. Now, whether the judge takes his hearsay comment as enough proof of that an investigation is warranted or not is up to that judge.
Okay. And Carl, Faraday cage. Just saying. Sorry, just had to say that bit.
There is okay. The manufacturer. This is something else that I'm totally against. Right? Is the federal government, right, and the legislative government giving people the tools to unlock things. Okay, but I'm going to tell everybody this right now. If you have physical access at any point in time to a piece of electronic equipment that has stored data on it, okay, they have that data. Even if you encrypt it, they have that data. They can record that information. The idea that a lot of people have about these iPhones, they're not on it. Their encryption is so tight that they can't unhack this. That's nonsense. Okay, that's just absolute stupid. Now, the local police might not have the tools to do it, but I guarantee you the tools exist. It's just a matter of time. That's the big key. Anything that's encrypted and that's sent out along the electronic spectrum in any way, shape, or form, all right, can be hacked. It can be decrypted. All right. The question is whether or not you have the time and the power to do it. That's the only question. But if you grant somebody physical access, they have access to the data. It's even less of a matter of time. It makes it that much easier.
Cough, cough, Snowden, cough, cough.
Yes. Snowden. I put a bullet. I wouldn't bother me at all to put a bullet in Snowden's head.
Something.
It wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I would kill somebody just because I wanted to kill them, all right? Because I wouldn't. But that's not the same thing as saying it. If I was told by legal authorities to put a bullet in Snowden's head, I wouldn't even hesitate to pull the trigger.
Are you really sure you want to say this on a live show, sir?
What are they going to? What is somebody going to say? I shouldn't have that viewpoint. All right.
True.
Are you going to tell me that a person who's an executioner shouldn't be an executioner? I'm not an executioner. I haven't been given granted that kind of authority. All right. But if for example, that there was a person that set up there and said, okay, you got to push this button, and this button here, all right, executes the death warrant on someone like Snowden. What go Jack Kevorkian on his ass?
You're making the DNA for the rest of the world just that little bit better. That's the excuse to use. Never
going to see the light of day, Moonhopper.
Yeah, but that's because you're burying the guy whether he's dead or not. I'm sorry, did I say it out loud? Whoops.
Now, Julian Assange is a different case. I would not just execute Julian. Julian Assange hasn't done anything that's deserves execution for. All right. Do I think that he's a criminal? Yeah, I do think he's a criminal. All right. Do I think that there's mitigating circumstances? Belmarsh prison and isolation? Yeah.
Okay, look, I completely agree. The guy does need to be taken out of prison. Okay, all right, maybe they wanted to arrest him for a little while. Okay, cool. Get rid of the guy. We're not interested anymore. Quite simply, why the hell should we pay for this dude? No offense, but if you guys want him, go and take him. We don't care.
We asked for him. You guys said no.
Yeah, but then apparently you actually said no, you don't want him, and we could keep him. I'm not sure where that's
When,
going.
when did that happen?
Fairly recently, actually. Apparently, you lot don't want him anymore, or should I say, you can't have him because your own courts won't allow that. Now,
No,
don't
our court has not made any kind of ruling like that. What are you talking about?
oh,
I don't know what
cool.
you're referring to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely want to get rid of the guy then. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that's preventing us is we're going through the extradition. But I'll be honest with you, while extradition is taking place, I still don't understand why he's in solitary confinement in Belmarsh prison.
You know full well he's using as an excuse as America. If I go anywhere else, America will take me without permission. That will be his excuse, even if your
Okay,
country has no interest.
if that was the case, if it was like that, what would have prevented us from when the Ecuadorian embassy, all right, decided to say get the hell out, all right? Did they have to open the doors to the British government, or could they just let all of a sudden a freaking black helicopter come in to the compound and all of a sudden Julian Assange is gone? Let's be perfectly honest here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right. So if the U.S. was what people think it is, all right, and I'm not saying that the U.S. doesn't have certain capabilities, but you got to look at all right. Just because you have a capability to do something, or theoretically you can do something, doesn't mean that it's going to happen, or even is really feasible. Okay. And this is another issue that you deal with that I've dealt with. Just because the United States has people that we could sneak up on them and we could do a KGB style assassination, all right, where we make somebody, toxic weapon, like a chemical weapon, right? Get somebody a nerve agent or polonium or a jab in the butt with rubidium, right? All these things are things that the Soviets have done, all right, and the Russians have done. Just because we could do that and have that capability doesn't mean that we're going to do it, all right, and that it's feasible for us to actually be able to do something like that, right? That there aren't other mechanisms that prevent that from happening. Okay, that's not saying that there aren't certain people that are willing to take things, and do things on their own. All right, I'm not saying that that's not possible. You've already seen it. When you have that idiot reality winner, all right, releasing documents on her own, all right, that have absolutely, that she says, proves there was Russian collusion. And when you look at the documents, they didn't prove shit. All right, all that was a innuendo-laden bullshit, right? But they were classified, all right? But when you have people willing to do that, what difference does it make? All right? There are people that will do certain things, but that doesn't mean that it's done at the behest of the government in and of itself. Might it be done in without somebody saying something and somebody going rogue? Yeah, people can go rogue. There's no doubt about it. All right, that happens. Like I said, if people weren't going rogue, you'd never have a whistleblower. You'd never have leaky. Okay. Why can't Stone be a hero and a demon at the same time? Yeah, yes, he damaged their intel apparatus, but not more than Carter did while he was POTUS. No, I disagree with you, Carl. He damaged it a lot more than what Carter did as POTUS. Although Carter didn't help matters. Carter outed two of our best programs. Jimmy Carter did. Snowden and Assange qualify as good guys for what they did. It's a shame that they were not more effective. No, I'm sorry. Snowden will never qualify as a good guy. He's a totally selfish thing, right? And Bradley is another person I wouldn't have any problems. All right, putting a bullet in his head. All right, if I was on a firing squad, right? And said, "Well, can you have to join a firing squad. We have Bradley Manning, all right, on the firing squad." No, I wouldn't have a problem putting a bullet in Bradley Manning's head any more than a Bo Bergdahl. I'd put a bullet in his head too.
The subtle approach. To be honest, okay, if they, I mean, maybe it's just me, and I'm willing to be wrong here, but if America really, really wanted Julian Assange killed, there is such a thing as a 50 caliber sniper's rifle and a smile. Okay? They can have their windows, but when he walks past and looks outside, there is this tiny little red dot that appears in the middle of his forehead, and the last thing he sees before it all goes suddenly dark for him. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But then again, why would they do it that way? If you really want to know the truth of the matter, if they really wanted to do something, right? Honestly, the CIA would do it this way. Okay, what they would do is, you've got all those guards in Belmarsh prison. Are you going to say that they're all upright and upstanding individuals that are beyond reproach? That if you walked up and said, "Hey, if you give $50,000, just make sure that this is included in Julian Assange's sandwich," that wouldn't do
it? Of course they would.
Okay. Why go through the trouble of something like that? And if you think, and if you think that that's a possibility in a British prison, think about how difficult it would be to take members of the Ecuadorian embassy, all right, and do the same thing, all right, for the 7 years that he was hiding in the embassy. A corrupt country like Ecuador, you could probably do it for 10 pesos, let alone freaking $50,000. All right.
In all fairness, the criminals, I mean, come on. At some point he's going to have to go in some way connected to General Pop, assuming he's not, like you say, in isolation. It wouldn't be too difficult for him to cough, have a permanent accident.
I can tell you there's things that they could do. There are what they call it. I don't know if how people, well, not people really studied certain things, right? There are certain chemical processes that you can create binary agents with, right? And what do I mean by a binary agent? A binary agent is you got a material A and material B, and by themselves are basically inert and not damaging, but when they come together, form a toxin. Okay.
Yeah.
They could have done it just like that, especially when you're feeding it to the guy's girlfriend. And remember, Julian Assange during his horrible time in isolation in the Ecuadorian embassy fathered 2 children.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea that Julian Assange was having it rough in the Ecuadorian embassy, that to me is just nonsense. All right. Now, was he being seen by the best doctors in the world? Well, no. All right. Never trust a woman from Ecuador. Just ask John Bobbitt.
Had to be done.
I'm not going there. I'm not going to go there. How's it going, memes? All right.
And just so you know, for once, MC didn't actually have a go at you. You're safe, mate. You're actually safe. No bets for Monday, but for today, enjoy yourself. You're safe.
But no, what they're doing with Pamela Anderson. Well, Pamela Anderson was just a squeeze. She didn't father his children. Think of that. It means where was I going? The idea that Julian Assange, right, was ever going to be freaking taken out by quote unquote the CIA, that was just nonsense. Now, are there other groups of people that would try and take him out, that have it in for him? Without a doubt. Right? But they're not the U.S. government, and it's not at the behest of the U.S. government. It'll be at the behest of certain individuals. Okay? And the problem would be, and this is one of the problems, if you placed him in U.S. custody, all right, the U.S. custodial service has demonstrated that it is leaky as a sieve. All right, to the point where if they want to get you, they'll get you. Epstein. Yeah. So it isn't necessarily the government that's going to do something like that. So later, Susan. But Julian Assange. No, I still to this day do not understand. Okay, yeah, he's served his time. All right, I have no problem with them putting him in prison for serving his time for jumping bail, which is what he did. Okay, but after that bail sentence is over, I still don't understand why he's in prison. I really don't. Fighting extradition, fine, but there's no reason for him to be in solitary confinement fighting extradition. There's no reason for him to be in custody like this right now. I cannot think of a reason why you could come up with to say that this is the reason why he has to be in this kind of custody right now. And I think the problem is that nobody knows what to do with him now. Well, we don't want to turn him over to the United States, but we do want to turn him. We just wish he'd go away. He's now a problem, right? Personally, like I've told other people, you could charge him in the United States if you wanted to. You could hold him accountable if you wanted to. And I do think he's guilty of crimes if you want to look at it from that standpoint. I don't think he would have gotten anything more than just a couple of years in prison and he would have been released. Yeah. I really think that that's what it was. He overinflated things when he ran, all right, to the Ecuadorian embassy. He made things infinitely worse for himself, all right, when he did that. Because he had it in his head, just like everybody has this fantasy in the head. Oh, the CIA would have killed him. CIA would have killed him. CIA wanted to kill him. You think that, like I said, if the CIA wanted to kill him, if the American government wanted him dead and wanted to use the power of the American government, would he be alive right now? No, he wouldn't be. It's just that simple, folks. If the American government fixes its eye on you to say you need to go, all right, guess what? You're gone. You will be gone. It's a scary thought, but it's reality. Ask Soleimani.
Oh, no, you can't. Whoops, too late. Sorry, was that too soon?
So that's the thing that makes me laugh about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Right. So as everyone knows, tomorrow evening, British time, we will be doing the history stream, unless you have a reason not to, MC?
No. George Washington. We'll be talking about George Washington.
The guy with the tree, yeah, him. So if you're interested in trees, come along and watch. I think he done something else, but God knows what.
we do need to talk about the man and his life and what he was like. Both a good examination on who he was, why he is held in such high regard in the United States, what he was like, right? Some of the aspects and maybe some things that people don't know about, right? Both before he became general, while he became general, and after he became general, right? And after he became president. All right, so there's a lot to the man. The man is probably one of the most studied figures in American history, and there's so much to know about him, but so little people actually, especially in today's younger generations, have any idea about the guy. So
yeah. Well, we will make sure we're not going to waste our time with him owning people, because after all, if you want that, I'm sure there are lots of streams detailing exactly how much of a naughty man he was. Personally, I don't care. Quite simply, he was a man of his time, and if this is a problem, well, it says a lot about you more than it does me, quite simply. Again, I'm not wrong, am I?
Nope.
But, yeah. So, I believe that is more or less all we have.
Yeah. I've ranted long enough. I'm tired of ranting.
Yep. You got to re-infuse ready for tomorrow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along. That was very nice of you, and I hope you all have a nice day. I'll speak to you all later. Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.